Good evening, YouTube. Welcome back to my channel. I want to go ahead and do this video real quick. I don't know how quick it's gonna be, but I had to light an incense. I love incense. It's my favorite thing. Incense and candles. I had ran out of incense, and they sell them at the beauty supply, but they only sell these specific scents in Walmart, and I don't really like going to Walmart, but when I go, I just kind of get a whole bunch of them, and I ran out, and I was like, oh my God, I felt like the end of the world. Even my baby was like, we ain't got no incense. I was like, I know. So I had to get me some. I forget which scent this is, but my favorite scents are Rain, Egypt, this cactus, it say cactus, and agave or something like that. I don't know. Them just be smelling so good though. So I'm gonna put this right here so it don't burn. But it is the aroma. It's aromatherapy. I love good smells. Not too loud, but yeah. Alright, so in this video, this out of the way too. The keyboard, I don't need this right now. I should wipe it down. Try to wipe my stuff down after work. Even though I'm the only one that be touching, it's just like, you know, when I log back on, everything just be nice and fresh and clean. So we're gonna get into this right here. Inherited karma and trauma. Karma and trauma. Not for real. Karma and trauma. Now, I spelled trauma wrong, but I ain't gonna show y'all again. You just have to play it back. I had caught it. I said, damn, I had spelled it wrong, but I think I had spelled it phonetically. Then I had realized I've never been a good speller. Never. Like, I can't spell for shit. Like, thank God for the red line, cause I can't spell for shit. So when I was spelling it phonetically, I spelled it trauma, not trauma. Trauma. It's really trauma, but I spelled it trauma. I guess, I don't know. So I was like, trauma. Anyway, y'all know what the fuck I'm saying. So I kind of wanted to like break the subject down a little bit. So we'll start off with a few definitions. So like, what is karma? Karma is like rooted in Hindu beliefs, Hindu principle, Hindu practices of cause and effect, and it is the effect. It is like the sum of one's actions. So karma doesn't necessarily have to be a good thing or a bad thing. I think us over here in the West, we karma just is inflated. Karma, oh, they're gonna get their karma, but it's the sum of your actions. So the counterpart to karma, I know from listening to Alan Watts, is dharma. So if I have good dharma, I have good karma, and vice versa, or an opposite of that. So if I have bad dharma, I have bad karma. And so, now that we got that understanding, we'll go into trauma. It can be physical and psychological. They kind of go. Now, I won't say they go hand in hand, but I would say if you experience some physical trauma only, it can still impact you psychologically. But if you go through like some just only psychological trauma, meaning like, you know, different type of abuses, mental, verbal, emotional, spiritual, different just type of like neglect, abandonment, different type, those things can cause trauma. I won't necessarily cause physical trauma. Now it can make you want to self-harm. So that might be like an aftermath more so than the actual physical part as far as psychological go. But it's a lasting damage. In some cases, it's even permanent. For me, I have like some permanent neurological damages from different traumatic events in my life. So how that all ties in, now that we got a good understanding of trauma and karma, how that all ties into it being like inherited. And then we know an inheritance is something that's passed through, you know, from one generation to the other. But I'm speaking specifically on genetic inheritance, DNA, the codes, the instructions, the amino acids, that type of stuff that carries loads of information, instructions, programming, all those different type of things. And coming into like the awareness of that a lot of times, like, you know, you have to get to a certain point in your life to come into that awareness. That's not going to be something you might actually be born with a wisdom. Maybe, you know, a lot of us are born wise, but until we actually experience it, a lot of stuff don't make sense. We have to be able to apply. And so with that, I feel like comes like your accountability and your responsibility, and it all kind of plays into this journey. And, you know, in this life, we're like having to do like a lot of healing and things like that, and with that comes responsibility and accountability just for yourself. And that doesn't mean you don't recognize where it may come from, but it just means like you don't get hung up there. You know, we don't want to just get caught up in the blame game. You know, then that's not responsibility. That's not accountability. That's still being a victim. And so we don't want to get stuck in victim mode. And that's where we stop being a victim. I think there's like a phase of that, and I think that's healthy, because if you've endured certain types of abuses that have created traumas, long-lasting impact in your life, at one point you were a victim. It's very true. But you don't stay there. And so to the next point I'm making is that when it comes to like our parents, our grandparents, even our great grandparents and our great grandparents, and go just going back and back, you know, the ancestors or whatever, in the timelines, in the era in which they lived, it's always been something as far as like human evolution goes. It's like one generation to the next should be passing on the torch, so to speak. But does that happen all the time? No, not really. A lot of times what we do get passed on, especially, you know, different people that come from different cultural backgrounds, because I don't even want to really make it about race or color or nothing like that. I just say different cultural backgrounds, because I feel like just the human experience in general can be traumatic, no matter what you look like. It's just like it can appear certain people get to walk through life a certain kind of way, but that's just an image, a facade, propaganda. That's not really true. It's people that may look a certain way, and you may think, oh, they have life easier because, you know, the system was created for them. That all probably is true. However, because of that creates even more trauma, because it's like at some point you have to sit with yourself and deal with yourself, especially in a collective too. So just imagine like certain people in certain cultures, how we're tapped in and tuned into our ancestors. We understand the bag. We carry those bags. We're like the bag men and women of our ancestors. Whereas certain other groups of people, they deny it, which to me just prolongs the inevitable. So with that being said, we all carry like a heavy weight, you know, from generation to generation. Now, is that what we want to pass along? No, I don't think so. You know, but in in the reality in which we live in a system that has been taken over by like a real evil machine. And from so many generations, it's kept us, from processing things, processing feelings, processing emotions, processing thoughts, reaching goals, reaching dreams, and like, to me, because of how I view life, like in such an artistic sense, whether it be music or paintings or drawing or just in nature, like the beauty and the essence of everything, people have not even been able to do that. And I feel like that's the biggest shame ever, is to not allow a person to be able to express themselves artistically, because like we're like literally walking, talking art. That's why we so different. That's why we look so different. That's why we have different thoughts and ideas and imaginations and creative ways of doing things, because it's like we're literally walking, talking art. So to not be able to express your art, to me, I feel like that's the worst. Because through art you can express your feelings, through art you can express your emotions, through art you can express your thoughts, through art you can visualize your dreams, through art you can reach your goals. And so when that right there is not able to, your artistic characteristics are not able to be expressed, that just creates a whole nother level to me of trauma that can be inherited from generation to generation, because then now you're just stuck in survival mode. And if you do create, it's limited, or is not appreciated or valued, or you have to die in order for it to be worth something, things like that. And so then we have all these things that create a depression. You have oppression, you have suppression, and you have repression. All those things create depression. So from generation to generation to generation, if you have people that are oppressed, been suppressed and repressed, from birth to birth to birth, it's still coming through the DNA. The codes are not being changed, the instructions are not being changed, it's still being passed through. You still see people with the same type of behaviors. You still see people with the same type of mindsets. You still see people with the same type of depression. And then, a lot of times people want to call certain people crazy and things like that. And it's just like, unless you have like a real strong mind, I'm talking about like supreme, this world will make you crazy. It really will, because you fighting so much. You fighting from the day you born, from the day you are birthed out the womb. You start. Some of us start before that. We remember that, but we talking about like the here and now. You start fighting, and you don't even know it until you reach a certain point where you're like, man, I can't. I'm exhausted. I can't fight no more. I gotta make some changes so that I'm healthier, and so that I'm the artistic expression that I was created to be. And that's where you make some decisions, and you create a new environment. And a lot of times that means walking away from toxic people, places, and things. I made a short about that. It seemed like it was pretty popular. So with all that being said, imagine you just born into this madness, as we'll call it, chaos, and from your mother, and you're born from your mother, and you carry your father's bloodline, and you have these bloodlines. They come together, they make you, this unique individual, a whole new expression. But you're weighted down. You're weighted down by unhealed things. You're weighted down by oppression, suppression, and repression. and depression already from the jump. So then on top of that, the same people that are supposed to raise you have not really, a lot of times our parents and our grandparents have not dealt with stuff. They don't know how. It's not, their program is so restrictive, and there's so much fear, and that they don't have the mindset or the capacity to begin to sit with themselves and like just start going through that stuff. You know, they don't, a lot of these conversations I couldn't sit and have with them. They wouldn't understand. It would be like, what you talking about? You crazy. I would get that, and I'd be like, nah, I'm not crazy. What I'm saying is, y'all gave me some bullshit to deal with. Then on top of the bullshit y'all gave me, as I'm growing up and developing and trying to become who I am and understand myself, because y'all haven't dealt with y'all shit, y'all still projecting that shit on me. So now it almost becomes real life. It becomes real life. The traumas becomes real life. So then the karma comes into play, because it's like, okay, the sum of one's actions. If you've taken on no actions to improve, if you've taken on no actions to change, if you've taken on no actions to grow and develop and mature, and you simply just aged, imagine the amount of karma that is somewhere stuck that has to come through, because energy have to flow. It have to flow. So it's gonna come through and it's gonna land, and then it's gonna either get kind of become shape, take form again, or they're gonna come along somebody's gonna come along that takes it, but then changes the form of it to say no. Change the dharma to improve the karma. Alchemize the trauma to now create positive living experiences. There's always gonna be pain. There's always gonna be something that, you know, creates uncertainty. There's always gonna be something, the unknown. However, it doesn't have to involve psychological trauma. Sometimes physical trauma we might not prevent, but I'm not really talking about that. But I say something like, you know, a kid is playing and he's running and breaks his ankle or something like that. That is a traumatic event to the body. He breaks a bone. That is, it can also be psychological traumatic, because it'll send a physical pain through the body where the person is just like, you know. But hopefully, just depending on the way the foot was broken or the leg was broken, you can, you know, get it casted, get it healed, get you some physical therapy, get back on track, and then it becomes a memory of like, dang, I remember that time I broke my leg. You know, and it's like you talk about it, and some people may even laugh about it, because it's like, oh, you were running so fast, you thought you was a cheetah, and you was really an alley cat, and yeah, you broke your leg, you know. But on a deeper level of different type of psychological traumas, where you've been abandoned, you've been neglected, you've been mistreated, you've actually been physically abused, you've been projected on, you've been talked about, you've been just made to feel less than, and for a majority of your life. And it's just like, you become that. You start to believe that, and you act those things out, and that's like continuing in the bullshit. So now it's like you become the effect of the cause. And I mentioned alchemy because like that is such an important practice. And you know, I know it's like a hot word now, but back in the day when I was like about 15 or 16, I had read the book The Alchemist, actually the story about the guy who took on the mission to look for a sword or something, or rock or something. I might be getting that in the Philosopher's Stone confused, cause I like both of them. They both about alchemy. And so he was so focused on getting to the end that he had to remember it was the journey. It's the journey. It's getting there. It's the process of getting there that's important. It's what you learn by each step, each level of each path chosen that creates a change in mindset, a change in behavior, a change in lifestyle, a change in frequency. And so with that being said, when you have such low frequencies, raising children, it's like it's very challenging to be that one that's trying to raise their frequency and keep it up there. That's why you can't stay around them people. It's like you can forgive people, places, and things. You can love people from a distance, but when you get that frequency to a certain level, you feel uncomfortable because they're uncomfortable, and it's just like awkward, and it's just like, well, I'm the minority, so I don't mind going on about my business because I know I still have a mission, and I know I still have stuff to do. Whereas the low frequency, low vibrational, traumatized, high bad karma individuals, you have to allow them to be in it. And so I'm gonna wrap this thing on up. This is where we come in with these, it's a lot of hot little phrase words. I'm glad the words is out because for a long time I didn't really know what this stuff was called. Like, I know alchemy, but like a lot of vocabulary I wasn't really familiar with. I couldn't explain it the way I'm explaining it now, so I'm proud of myself for that. But basically, it's like that's breaking the generational curses. It's creating, better experiences. That's making our future, meaning our children. If you don't have children, the future for the children that will one day be adults. That's what we're doing, so that they have less trauma, less bad karma to worry about, and then they can have better life experiences and experience their life through a higher vibration, better experiences, more collaborative, more love, more community, more union, instead of like what we got going on now is too much. And so yeah, that's basically it. That's kind of all I wanted to say on that. I'm at 23 minutes, and that's pretty much a long. Oh Lord, the teacher sending messages. What time is it? I don't know. I have my clock. I'm going on a field trip tomorrow. I'm going on a field trip tomorrow to the Science Museum. I think we already been to this one, but it's okay. I'm going on a field trip tomorrow. That's my little thing I try to do: volunteer, spend time. And I work after the field trip over for a little bit. But yeah, just having that experience right there, I know that tomorrow that'll mean a lot to her and other children, because I know a lot of parents, they might not can take off or they might not be interested. But for me, it's like that's my way of also like giving back and making a contribution, a positive contribution into a child's life, to be a chaperone on a field trip. It's nothing major, but it, who knows whose life I may impact. All right, so I hope y'all like this video. I hope I made some sense. I wrote my notes, so I think that's what I'm gonna do from this point on out. They kind of help guide me, and I was able to really express what I wanted to express. And so I appreciate y'all listening. If you made it to this point, congratulations.